welcome back to Feel Good Breakfast Show. Expresso here on S3, and Tuesdays we're all about sharing some health advice, and today we're talking about excessive sweating, something that we do in January often, and that's obviously financially related, but at the same time it could also be hyperhidrosis. Now, it's a condition that can significantly affect daily life, but understanding the causes and treatments available can empower those who suffer from it. And today we've got the perfect individual to come through, Dr. Danica Richards, a medical aesthetics expert who will guide us through the basics of hyperhidrosis and the most common causes other than school fees. Hi.
Hi, Doc. How are you this morning?
Great. How are you?
Good. Please, can you confirm that we don't sweat, we glow?
100%.
Thank you. I needed that. I needed that for my peace of mind. But I got to get into the basics of sweating. It's something that many of us do experience. Obviously, we're exempt. But why do we sweat?
It's really quite simple.
Yeah.
It's a regulatory mechanism. It's essentially our body trying to cool us down. When it's hot or we're exercising, that's when we sweat to cool down. And sometimes it can also happen when we have a little bit of anxiety or nervousness, those sweaty palms. That's all normal. That's all within normal range.
Okay, well, some of the common causes. I mean, I know you can run hair sweating. You can think about exams. Suddenly you feel sweaty, so to speak. I know hormonal imbalances that can also cause excessive sweating. So what are some of the spectrum of sort of common causes of excessive sweating, I suppose?
So, I mean, it's either genetic or it's due to an underlying medical condition. Genetic, obviously, that usually presents when you're younger, under the age of 25.
Yeah.
Underlying medical conditions, there's a whole host that can cause excessive sweating. Some of the more common ones are an overactive thyroid or menopause, infections such as TB, and then there's some more complicated medical conditions, which I won't mention, but often neurological disorders can also present with excessive sweating.
That's interesting. I'm sure many people are taking notes right now. How about lifestyle factors? Does this have any sort of impact the way we conduct ourselves on the daily into sweating, excessive sweating?
Absolutely. So it's not necessarily a cause for excessive sweating, but it can trigger or worsen excessive sweating or hyperhidrosis. And not a lot of people know this. And diet-wise, it's all the things we love to eat that's bad for us. Fatty foods, salty, sugary foods, caffeine, alcohol.
Did you say caffeine? Goodness, we'd not be able to function
You know what
in the
I was
morning.
thinking about?
What?
People talk about meat sweats. Is that a real thing?
Meat sweats.
Like
Yes,
if you eat too much meat?
Protein-rich diets, not necessarily meat specifically.
Okay, I see.
Okay.
Okay, there we go.
I was
There
very
must be something
curious
in that.
about that.
I think maybe it's just the body breaking down the proteins. Maybe that's it. But I think let's talk about the main thing here, and when hyperhidrosis becomes a problem. Now, naturally, you could be sitting in close vicinity, and people would recognize. Often, they won't tell you the pong. Yes, some people would call it supporting the box. There's a lot of people, there's a lot of smell factors around, but I don't think anybody has ever told us, why our sweat has that smell, that distinct smell.
Sure.
And you can tell it's actually distinct. A lot of people smell different when it comes to sweating. So why do we smell like that?
So sweat actually doesn't have a smell. It's the bacteria that occur, bacteria or fungi, generally not fungi in normal sweating.
Okay.
But bacteria is what actually creates the odor, not the sweat itself.
That changed the game
That
with sweating
did.
now.
And I need to understand how this works. So you sweat, it doesn't smell. Like at what point? What causes it? How can we reduce it? Because people have different degrees of pong.
Yes.
Correct.
If so to speak.
Yes, well said. Yeah.
So again, diet can play a role. I mean, think about if you've had a big night the night before.
Yeah.
Not me, other people.
Yeah, other people. Yes, definitely.
Never
of
you,
course.
Doc.
There's a definite pong that happens as you release toxins through the sweat glands. So it could be diet, could be bacteria, and it could just be your natural genetic smell.
Okay. So then there's help or no help in case you are seeking any sort of
Well, I mean,
solution?
if we're talking about odor specifically, we're looking at, things like, firstly, obviously changing your diet if
Yes.
that's a trigger for your odor.
Yeah.
Or using a deodorant.
Okay.
Sometimes we can use topical antibiotics if necessary, or topical antifungal treatments if necessary. But if you're talking about excessive sweating, we're looking at not actually odor, reducing the amount of sweat, which is then you're looking at using an antiperspirant, not a deodorant.
Okay.
So it's different.
I got you. Okay, this makes a lot of sense, especially antiperspirant. So I know you get a variety of them. You get the spray-on, roll-on, and even the sticks.
Yeah.
Do you, as a professional in this space, have a preference that you think works better than one or the other?
So studies have shown for hyperhidrosis specifically, so
Yes.
for excessive sweating, antiperspirants that contain aluminium chloride have a really good result in reducing the sweating.
Okay.
So that's something like Perspirex or Dry Claw are
Okay.
just some brand names that are popular.
Aluminium chloride. Done.
Yeah, that's something to take note of for sure, especially reading ingredients behind any antiperspirant. And I know there are some other methods that we could use for solutions, which we'll delve into in just a bit, because we have a part 2 of this conversation. I heard something around Botox, which really got my eyebrows raised, because that's a really interesting one. And a solution for you, perhaps, if you do deal with hyperhidrosis. I got that? Yes. I could be your doctor next time. Maybe, possibly. No, don't trust me. We've got the expert in the building, and we'll get into part 2 in just a bit.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back. We missed you. I'm so glad you're here. It is your Feel Good Breakfast Show, Expresso, and we're continuing our health conversation about excessive sweating. Now that we've covered the causes and general treatments of what they would call hyperhidrosis, we're going to explore more specialized options on how to manage excessive sweating. This is for long-term relief. Dr. Danica Richards is still here, our medical aesthetics expert, giving us all the advice we need. Now, you mentioned something
I did.
that was intriguing to you.
Yes, it's
Now,
so
please,
intriguing.
let's just hit that first.
I gotta ask you. So Botox is something that I've heard to kind of make your face, iron out your face. I'm just gonna put it like that. But I've heard you could use it in your armpits to also help with excessive sweating. So true or false, and
Correct.
how does this work?
True. Very true. So it is actually quite a popular treatment for underarm sweating specifically.
Okay.
And essentially, although Botox is most well known for relaxing muscles or wrinkles, it also deactivates the pathway which stimulates the sweat gland. So if you can't activate the sweat gland, you can't sweat. So it works very well. And often gives at least 6 months of relief. For very lucky patients, longer. But it is something you have to maintain.
Okay, I see. If you can't just go one shot and then it's done, you have
Wouldn't
to
that
think
be
about
great if we could do that with everything?
Right,
Everything.
exactly. But it is a journey if you are wanting to, if your hyperhidrosis is getting to a point where perhaps it's unmanageable. And let's talk about that for a second, because hyperhidrosis on a medical level can also be an indicator of some underlying health conditions. When does it become something to actually lean into? Some people just say, I'm just a heavy sweater. But when does it become something that you need to go to a doctor for?
So we know younger than the age of 25, generally it's genetic. So if you're generally,
Yes.
if your sweating started over the age of 25, or it is a new onset symptom, just started, or you're noticing that you might have other symptoms, like for example, if it was due to an overactive thyroid, you might have heart palpitations or loss of weight, then all 3 of those things are indicators to have it looked at.
Okay.
But also, on a mental health care level, if it is impacting your social anxiety or affecting your self-esteem, it's also often linked to depression, then that would be another indicator for you to treat it. And you can just start with a visit to your friendly GP or aesthetic doctors. Most of them in South Africa are general practitioners and treat hyperhidrosis quite often.
Yes.
So you could also visit an aesthetic doctor. If it becomes more complicated, you could be referred up to a dermatologist or to another specialist to treat the underlying condition.
Doc, before we get into perhaps addressing your lifestyle factors like your diet that can be impacted, I did want to find out what is excessive? At what point do we go, okay, this is abnormal?
Yeah. So we classify normal sweating as sweating when your body's trying to cool you down. So when it's hot, when you're exercising, and like I said, sometimes with anxiety. It's excessive when it just occurs at random times of the day, is not part of your normal regulation to cool your body down. Often causes you to sweat through or drench through all of your clothing. And then again, if it impacts your lifestyle or how you interact at work or school or in social settings, it's excessive.
Okay.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. But now let's talk about diet, hydration. What are some of your recommendations to make sure that that is on point so that we can better manage a sweating situation?
So I always recommend keeping a health or food diary, because if I have excessive sweating and Carl has excessive sweating, our triggers might be completely different.
Very true.
So keeping a diary and seeing which dietary items or alcohol or caffeine might stimulate the excessive sweating so that you can remove those from your diet is the best solution. And then obviously caffeine and alcohol avoidance, as I've mentioned. Hydration is actually also really key. If you are well hydrated, you are better able to regulate temperature, you're going to sweat less. Also, people with hyperhidrosis sweat up to 5 times more than the normal person. So you can become dehydrated. So it's important just to monitor how much you're sweating and supplement with fluids to counteract that.
Sure.
Love it.
Doc, quick one, gotta ask you. Hygiene-wise, should we be bathing or showering more often?
Ooh.
That is a controversial one.
It is.
And I don't think there's enough research to substantiate one or the other.
Okay.
So I'm definitely not going to judge someone who's made the decision to not bath or shower every day. I think currently, based on research or evidence, I'm going to say that's a personal call.
Please tell the people to shower more often.
No, come on. Come on. But,
it's important, especially in summer, guys, please.
But I know that, like, you know, there are a bunch of different factors, and you've shared them as well. And I think it's important if it is becoming some sort of a problem. Usually, your gut feel is a great way of going to your general practitioner and saying, "Hey, this is an issue." Naturally, at this time of the year, there are bills that make us sweat anyway. Do not be alarmed. We're going to get through this together. But thanks a lot, Dr. Danica, for all of the help. Lifeaesthetics.co.za. Please go and visit them if you have any questions. Dr. Danny will be there to answer all of those. Now, let's get sweating, but in a way that is away from hyperhidrosis. It's more about Australian Open time. We're excited about it. We're inspired. And here's Raul and Ricky with just some basics that you need to get through.